You're listening to the Reds Podcast.
This is episode 15. There's some common excuses that I hear all the time from upcoming entrepreneurs. I don't know enough, too young, too old, don't have enough money in the bank, I've got bad health, not enough time. Laurel has a 4-step solution to overcoming excuses, so if you've said any of those things to yourself, you'll want to listen to this episode. That is next on Red Podcast.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
David, what did you think about the Walter Mitty movie last night?
I thought it was okay. I don't think that it lived up to its preview, though.
Yeah, the preview, I think I cried. It was really...
Yeah.
It was all inspirational.
You get the music behind it,
yeah.
And you start filling in the blanks, and yeah, there's a lot to cry about.
Yeah, but it came out on instant Amazon, so we had to watch it.
Yeah, finally. We're like way behind the time.
We are
at least 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, we are way behind.
But we don't watch much TV. Our TV's not even plugged in.
Don't. I think.
There's no cable hooked up to it. There's no antenna.
No.
We watch a movie occasionally, like every 6 months.
Every 6. I think the last one we watched was The Internship with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, which was hilarious.
It was okay. We still have jokes from it, so it was worth the time. But I thought Walter Mitty was good. I think if you haven't seen it, I thought it was inspirational. You know, it made me rethink, what I want to do with, not what I want to do with my life, but, what life's all about. I don't know. It had that Hollywood inspirational edge to it, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And it made me think about a lot. The guy had been at his day job for like 16 years. And on one hand, I think, wow, that would kind of suck, but he was actually putting the work into it, and the people there at their day job, they really loved the work and took passion and pride in it. Which
is not how we felt when we had a day job.
Hell no.
Like at all. Yeah.
No. I never would have been able to last that long. No. Not even 16 months, and sometimes not even 16 days.
No. And that kind of gets me thinking, which is our topic today, excuses. Because if you're stuck in a job like Walter Mitty was, which he actually liked his job, but he was kind of stuck in a rut in his life for 16 years. And you come into the movie at the time where things are shaken up. But if you're stuck in a rut for that long, even if it's 16 months, you're going to be probably making a lot of excuses, and that's what we're talking about today.
So, I know we kind of co-host this podcast, but you work with a lot of entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, people with jobs that are trying to transition out of them.
Yep.
So how about I ask you some questions about that, because you're on the front line of this. And speaking of excuses, I'd like to know, what are some of the common excuses people have for not leaving their job?
Really anything people can come up with, but I think the big ones are going to be, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to grow my business. I don't have enough time to do anything. I mean, basically, time is such an issue when you have a full-time job. I don't have enough money. That's a big one. I don't know enough.
So they don't have enough money to quit?
Yeah, don't have enough money to quit or
no money in the
start
bank.
A business.
They don't know what they need to do once they quit.
Can't support my family if I quit. All those kinds of things, which are just kind of excuses for not doing what you want to do.
Do you think so?
I think so, because I think there are plenty of people out there who have been faced with those exact same excuses and have done what they needed to do anyway.
And I think that even if you think you know what you're going to do, like you and I we're like, yeah, we got this. And then you actually get into the situation and you realize how little you do know, but you learn fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to overcome excuses to get to that learning phase. Because if you don't overcome excuses, I mean, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck in a rut. You're not going to be able to make the money you want. You're not going to be able to achieve your goals. You're not going to be able to do what it is you want to do that's going to make you happy, whether it's a business thing or a lifestyle thing. And excuses what I've found are failure thinking. I mean, David, you would never go and like talk to a successful entrepreneur and they would list off their reasons of excuses. I mean, successful people have figured out how to overcome excuses and just obliterate them and move past them. And it
starts at a smaller level too, doesn't it? It's not just about doing the big things like quitting your job, but it's about releasing a product.
Yeah, anything.
Even this podcast, we would have had a lot of excuses, and we still do. We just didn't listen to ourselves.
Yeah, and it's not just like, only certain people have excuses. We all have excuses. It could be excuses for why you don't want to lose that weight you've been talking about losing forever. Why you don't want to take that vacation that you need to take. I mean, whatever that looks like, we all come up with excuses. Why you stay in that relationship that's long over. I've been there. Well,
regarding the weight and the relationship, I always find that there's a secondary payoff, and it's usually comfort. Like, yeah, you really need to lose the weight, and you want to on some level, but maybe you like to eat. And maybe you like to sit around and watch movies all the time.
Twinkies taste so good.
Yeah, they do taste good. Yeah, so that's a secondary payoff, that you're not going to be able to eat those Twinkies necessarily if you're going to lose a lot of weight.
Well, comfort is the enemy of excuses. I don't think I said that right, but comfort's why you sit in those excuses and you let them rule your life, because it's comfortable not to change. Change is scary. Change is uncomfortable. Getting out of your comfort zone is not like the most fun thing you're ever going to do. So you come up with all these fabricated excuses so that you can stay in your comfort zone and be content.
And I think that also opens you up, because of that, to self-sabotage. Like, I know, looking back on it, we joke around about me having so many jobs before I was self-employed, finally. And I think the reason for that is because I had to mess things up, so I literally had no excuse. And there was no other options other than just going out on your own. I had to burn the bridge, sometimes more than one.
Well, I heard a quote once, and you reminded me. It was saying, don't burn any bridges except the one behind you. And that's what you did when you left your job. I mean, you have to burn the bridge and say, I can't go backwards. I only can go forwards.
Yeah, because it's so easy. How many times do you know? I know several. I know a woman, literally, she filed for divorce twice, went back both times, and not until the third time she finally got out. And when she did it, I should have done that a long time ago, but she wasn't ready. And we do that with our jobs. We have these great plans. We think, oh yeah, we're gonna do it, but we jump back at the last minute.
Yeah, excuses, man. Well, I think there are two types of excuses that I've seen, and you might disagree with this, but I think there's internal and there's external. And this is what I've seen with my clients is the internal ones are kind of stuff that just comes from you, like the I don't know enough, I'm too young, I'm too old, I need to go back to school, that kind of stuff. And then there's the external excuses, which are things you could physically point your finger at, like I don't have enough money in the bank, I'm not healthy enough, I don't have enough time, I'm too busy, things like that. And I feel like both of those are excuses and they both can be handled in the same way, but they're just kind of two different ways to look at excuses.
See, I wonder about that, to go a little bit deeper on that, though, because what is enough money in the bank? I know a guy. And
you always know a guy. It's
well,
so
I don't
funny.
like to mention names. It's just,
I know a guy that knows a guy.
It's embarrassing. It's going to be super embarrassing for this dude.
Okay, he'll remain anonymous.
This guy had finished up like a 20-something year career, and it was time for him to retire. It was like a union job kind of thing. He was going to be eligible to retire, and he had enough money in the bank for 3 years. 3 years. And you'd think, well, that's enough money, but it was almost like too much money, because he just kind of sat around, didn't really do anything, and he isn't successful because of that. But there are a lot of people that they wouldn't have thought that was enough money, and there are some people like me, I think I got like a final paycheck that was like 4 days of work. Mm-hmm. And I had like a tank of gas and maybe a couple $100 in the bank, not much. And then that's when you really start working. So I think some of these excuses that you're talking about, the external, that could also be an internal thing, because it's how you look at them. Like, what is good health?
Exactly. I mean, I think they're all internal because they're all being made up in your brain. Because as I said before, other people have been able to overcome this stuff, and it's not holding them back. It's not a boundary or wall keeping them in. And even you mentioned that is having too much money can be an excuse in and of itself. Oh, well, I have enough money, so I don't need to work really hard on my business right now. And that'll sabotage you. I was having coffee with someone the other day, and she told me, and I'm writing about this in my book because I found it hilarious. She told me that she had too much time to work on her business, and she needed to go back from part-time at her day job to full-time so she would have less time to work on her business so she would get more done.
Yeah, she was wasting time.
And I was like, oh my gosh. But it's just an excuse. It's just what we tell ourselves, the reasons, we're just trying to make ourselves feel better for the reasons we're not getting stuff done.
Well, I know you coach, as I mentioned earlier, and work with a lot of people who are in this transition phase. You've got a 4-step solution for people that are making excuses.
Yeah, well, I like to kind of break it down, and there are multiple ways to wrap your head around excuses and eliminate them. But what works pretty well for me and for my clients as well is the first thing is you have to create awareness. You have to know what your common excuses are, whether it's too much time, not enough time, too much money, not enough money, too old, too young. You have to figure out what you've been saying for so long that's holding you back.
How do you know that, though? Because I think that self-deception is what we're up here against. And when you're talking about these excuses, if you're listening to your friend who tells you that she's got too much time to work on her business, I mean, to her, that's really real. Mm-hmm. That's she doesn't know that she's lying to herself.
Well, that's the thing, is that excuses seem like reality. And that's why they're really hard to be, it's hard to become aware of what they are, because not having enough money in the bank, that seems like reality to me. I'm not making that up. Like, I seriously don't have enough money in the bank. And so you have to create awareness. And the best way that I find to do this is to either get with a friend, or you can do this by yourself, and just say, pick the thing that you've been wanting to do. And that can be, I don't know, starting a podcast. Say, I want to start a podcast. And if your friend's there, have your friend say, well, why haven't you done that yet? If your friend's not there, make up that somebody asked you that. Why haven't I done it yet? Start writing it down. Don't have enough money for equipment. Don't know how to start a blog. Don't know, how to do it. And then just start to look at those. Yes, they seem like reality, but most likely they're just a long list of your excuses that you're telling yourself, because hundreds of thousands of other people have been in a similar situation, and they've been able to overcome it. So that tells me it's an excuse.
I've got a great story about this. I have a friend of mine, and I've been doing yoga for a long time, and I always hear this, oh, I'd sure like to get into yoga. So I had some free passes, because her excuse was, well, I don't have enough money. Well, I got some free passes. Let me give them to you. Well, I don't know where the studio is. You know what? I can pick you up. And just went after excuse after excuse, and I was going to meet her there, right? And eventually it just came to where she had to realize that I'm really just not that into doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good if you can find a friend who will stand up to you. I have found, though, the best thing is to hire like an outside advisor, like a coach, like a life coach, or something like you do, Laurel, or
you do.
Well, yeah, and I'm not hiring you. I'm hiring somebody outside. And this guy, it's funny. I had a lunch with a friend of mine. He's a well-known author. Let's just say that. And this guy's running into excuses too with his new book. And I was talking about the coach, and he said, I need to know what this guy's going to do to help me overcome these excuses, because I was telling him about my good luck with it. And I said, well, listen, let me tell you what he did with my book. He made me write a check to a charity that I absolutely could not stand, which is the Westboro Baptist Church.
They don't seem like life lovers, so.
Well, I can't stand them, so I wrote a check to him, and I sent it to him, and he says, all right, here's the deal. You've been giving me these excuses for this book, and if you don't write every day, I'm going to check in with you daily. And if you skip a day, I'm sending this check off to these guys. So,
ouch.
Yeah.
Did your check get sent?
No, because I started writing. I didn't want those guys having my money.
But that does come down to your point, David, of you have to figure out if you're making excuses like the yoga thing.